Yo, it's the Elohim, the Mellow Mystic, Lord Emmanuel, Chief of simonicanation, Spiker Star Seed, the wheat in the virgin's hand. And if you don't know, now you know. Check this out though. About to jump into the fifth module of the Secured Party Mastery course from the Simonic and Mystery School of Spiker. You know what I mean? And we showing how to operate in the private. You know what I'm saying? How to operate privately. Because, living and operating in the private is really not much different than how you living and operating now. You just signing and contracting. You ain't signing and contracting as the debtor. You signing and contracting as the creditor. You know what I mean? You ain't signing as the debtor. You signing as the authorized agent or representative. You signing as the beneficiary. You know what I'm saying? You signing as the trustee of your own private trust. Now, if you got to have somebody or something over you, then this information ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? But if you spiritually sovereign, this is the way you able to assert that spiritual sovereignty and exercise that spiritual sovereignty in the physical realm lawfully. You know what I mean? This is how you operate. This is how you administer your own estate. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into Module 5, which is going into risk, liability, indemnity, and protection. Because we want to teach how risk and liability actually arise in commerce and how they can be ethically allocated and how individuals, trustees, and private entities protect themselves without hiding, evading, or misrepresenting. You ain't got to hide. You can protect yourself. You know what I mean? And things like trust are the shields. This module replaces fear with clarity and structure. So this module is going to cover understanding risk versus liability, personal, fiduciary, and contractual liability, indemnity agreements, and risk allocation, insurance, bonds, and private safeguards. So, lesson 5.1, understanding risk versus liability. Because we want to distinguish between risk or possibility and liability or responsibility. So you can manage both intelligently. The key teachings are risk exists anytime value is exchanged. Liability arises only when a duty exists and that duty is breached and harm results. Not all risk creates liability. Clear agreements dramatically reduce liability exposure. Clear agreements. You cannot eliminate risk, but you can define responsibility. So let's go into personal, fiduciary, and contractual liability. Because we want to learn how liability attaches depending on capacity. We talked about capacity in the previous module and the importance of being in your proper capacity. So, types of liability. You have personal liability. arises from personal acts or negligence and cannot be transferred away entirely. Fiduciary liability arises when acting as a trustee or officer. Fiduciary liability is limited by acting within authority. And contractual liability, defined by agreement. And contractual liability can be limited, capped, or allocated. So always act in the correct capacity and state it clearly. If you're acting as the authorized representative, let it be known. If you're acting as beneficiary, let it be known. So that leads us to indemnity agreements and risk allocation. We want to understand indemnity as a tool for balance, not avoidance. So indemnity shifts responsibility for specific losses. Hold harmless limits claims between parties. Indemnity must be clear, specific, mutual, or knowingly accepted. We went through indemnity and hold harmless clauses in previous modules, so we just recapping. Ethical use. Never indemnify fraud or intentional harm. Indemnity supports trust, not recklessness. So now let's take a look at insurance, bonds, and private safeguards. Because we want to learn how traditional tools support private operations. Protection tools. Insurance. Insurance transfers risk to a third party. Surety bonds. Surety bonds guarantee performance. Reserves. Reserves are financial buffers. And policies and procedures. Policies and procedures prevent harm before it occurs. Protection is layered, not singular. So remember, risk is possibility of loss. Liability is legal responsibility for harm. Indemnity is agreement to compensate for loss. Fiduciary duty is obligation to act in another's interest. Bond is a financial guarantee of performance. And protection is layered risk mitigation. The protection stack. Just giving you foundations so that you could take this information even further in your research. You know what I mean? But module 6 is going to go into records and lawful distance. But until next time, this is the Elohim, the Mellow Mystic, Lord Emmanuel, Chief of simonicanation, Spike of Star Seed, the wheat in the Virgin's hand. And we just at the beginning of the knowledge and wisdom that's getting ready to be dropped on this page, on this channel. So, and this is the most, it's studious. You gotta be studious for this type of shit. All the mysticism and the magic and shit, we ain't covering that right here. This is the foundational shit right here. You know what I'm saying? But believe me, we gonna cover everything. We gonna cover it all. We gonna cover it all. So I hope this information was helpful, and until the next time.